Thank you for watching another episode of Dvar Malchus from Parshas Tetzaveh. We are on page 333, Royal Words of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This from the 11th of Adar 1, 5752 at the top of the page. At the beginning and conclusion of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, the Torah speaks about the kindling of the lamps of the menorah. At the beginning of the Torah portion, and they shall take pure olive oil for you to light an eternal lamp in the Oel Moed, sanctuary of the tabernacle. Aaron and his children should set it up from the night until the morning, and similarly in the conclusion of the Torah portion, every morning among arranging the lamps and upon the lighting of the lamps in the afternoon by Aaron. And the main innovation added in the conclusion of the Torah portion is that the lighting the lamps is connected with the burning of the Ketores, incense, and you shall make an altar for the burning of Ketores, and Aaron shall burn Ketores, burnt offerings of fragrant spices. Every morning upon arranging the lamps he shall burn it, and when Aaron lights the lamps in the afternoon it shall be burned, meaning that the burning of the Ketores is at the time of arranging the lighting of the lamps, at the time of the arranging of the lamps, and the Ketores shall be burnt. At the time of the lighting of the lamps of the Ketores shall be burnt. Furthermore, the Ketores is offered in the middle of the arrangement of the lamps. According to the opinion of the sages, the order is not that he arranges the lamps, all 7 lamps, and afterwards burns the Ketores. Rather, he should arrange only 5, burn the Ketores in the middle, and then arrange them completely and arrange the last 2, namely that he divides the arranging of the 5 lamps and the arranging of the 2 lamps with the burning of the Ketores, not like the opinion of the Abba Shal, and that he shall arrange all of them and then burn the Ketores. For it is written, every morning upon arranging the lamps, and then he shall burn the Ketores. And he divides the arranging of the 5 lamps and the arranging of the 2 lamps with the sprinkling of the blood of the Talmud sacrifices. And the law is accordance with the opinion of the sages and the ruling of the Rambam. After one sprinkles the blood of the Talmud sacrifice and the purposes of the Halkal arranges the and the person in the Hakel arranges the 5 lamps, and they both go out of the Hakel. Afterwards, they draw lots, and the one who merits to offer the Ketores enters and burns the Ketores, and afterwards the one who merits to arrange the menorah goes in and arranges the final 2 lamps. Now it is appropriate to explain the concept of the Ketores and lighting the lamps and their relation to one another in the service of man, and it is known that all the aspects of the tabernacle and the base of Mikdash are found in the service of every man in every day in the tabernacle and sanctuary within him, as it is written, and they shall make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among you. It does not say in it, rather in you, rather each and every Jew and Jewess, as emphasized in the resuscitation of our lips, will be compensated for oxen sacrifice in the beginning of the daily morning prayer services, and the passage of the ashes service, and the passage of the Talmud service, and the passage of the Ketores, including the Abbai would list the order of the services. And the passage of the Ketores has additional emphasis, since besides for the resuscitation of the passage of the written Torah, like the passage of the ashes service and the Talmud service from the Torah portion of Sisa, take for yourself incense, and you shall make it into Ketores, and you shall place for it, including the emphasis of its connection to the lighting the lamps as we continue. And the verse says, and Aaron shall burn the Ketores on it, upon arranging the lamps. And when Aaron lights the lamps, in addition we add and recite the long discussion of the details of the preparation of the Ketores as explained in the Baraisa. And the sages taught that the order of the making of the Ketores as follows. It had 11 types of incense in it, as we shall explain. And by way of preference, a question regarding passage of the lamps and the passage of the altar from the Ketores of the beginning of the conclusion of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh. After the Torah portion of Truma, in which the details of the structure of the tabernacle are explained, and the Torah portion of Tetzaveh begins with the priesthood of Aaron and his children. And you shall bring close to you, after you complete the structure of the tabernacle, Aaron your brother and his children to be Cohens for me, through their making the priestly garments, and you shall make holy garments to sanctify him, to make him a Cohen for me, to bring him into the priesthood through the garments, so that he will be a Cohen for me, as explained in detail in the continuation of the Torah portion until the 4th Aliyah, including the inauguration into the priesthood. And this is what you shall do for them This is what you shall do to them to sanctify them to be Kohanim for me. And you shall inaugurate Aaron and his children through the specific details of the 7 days of inauguration, that through this inauguration they will become concentrated for the priesthood, which are explained in the continuation of the Torah portion from the 4th Aliyah until the 6th. And since almost the entire Torah portion discusses the priesthood of Aaron, we must understand what is the reason that it begins with the passage of the lambs and concludes with the passage of the altar for the Ketores. And furthermore, these two passages, the passage of the lamp and the passage of the altar for the Ketores, were seemingly written out of order. The passage of the lamp, since it was not said here only in connection with the structure of the tabernacle to explain the purpose of the menorah, seemingly the place of this passage should have been in the order of the structure of the tabernacle, in the continuation to the making of the menorah in the Torah portion of Truma, and especially since in the conclusion of the instruction for making the menorah it says, "And you shall light its lamps," and not in the beginning of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, which speaks about the priesthood of Aaron. And the passage of the altar for the Ketores of the commemoration, and the passage of the altars for the Ketores as the commemoratives have seemingly the place of this passage should have been in the Torah portion of Truma, together with all the vessels of the tabernacle, the ark, the table of the showbread, the menorah, the outer altar, and not at the end of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, and specifically details in the tabernacle and its vessels, and the priestly garments and its inauguration. And may we say the explanation of this as follows. The fact that the passage of the altar for the Ketores is written not in its seemingly correct place, together with the vessels of the tabernacle, the Torah portion of Truma, rather after the tabernacle and its vessels, the priestly garments, and the inauguration, is in order to emphasize the special virtue of the altar for the Ketores, since through it the main intention of the tabernacle is fulfilled. What is the first in thought is last in action, as stated in the Midrash, that when the tabernacle and all its vessels were made, they slaughtered the sacrifices, etc. The divine presence did not descend until they brought the Ketores. And among the explanation of this and the service of man to his creator, our sages have said there were 2 altars, one of gold, the inner altar, corresponding to the soul of a person, the one of copper, our outer altar, corresponding to the body of a person, just as the body eats. Likewise, the sacrifices of the copper altar were for food, just as the soul only has pleasure from fragrances. Therefore, only things offered in the gold altar was the Ketores incense, that things that produce fragrances. And in addition to this, they are interdependent, that through the sacrifices upon the copper altar, the phenomenon of kiruv, bringing things close to Hashem, carbon sacrificing is an idiom of kiruv, is accomplished, whereas through the Ketores, the phenomenon not only of bringing things close, rather furthermore of connecting and uniting with Hashem is accomplished. Ketores is an idiom of kishur, connection, to the extent that they become one entity with Hashem, as the wording of the Zohar, I am tied with one nut, ketira, with Hashem. And from this it's understood that the main intention of the tabernacle, and they shall make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among you, is accomplished through the Ketores, in which it is emphasized that the main and ultimate connection with Hashem, that they become literally one. And this concept is emphasized in the fact that the passage of the Ketores altar is written apart from the other vessels, after the structure of the tabernacle, the priestly garments, and inauguration ceremony. Upon the culmination of all the specific details of the structure of the tabernacle, the priestly garments, and the inauguration ceremony in the portion of Truma and most of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, the verse concludes with the ultimate purpose of the tabernacle in general. And I shall join there with the Jewish people, and the tabernacle will be sanctified with my honor, for I will dwell my divine presence in it, and I shall dwell among the Jewish people, so that I dwell among you. And afterwards the Torah adds for a passage for itself, and you shall make an altar for the burning of the Ketores. And the verse says, and he additionally makes a special request to make the altar to burn the Ketores a high level of dwelling among you, since through the Ketores the unification with Hashem reaches ultimate perfection. And this obtains greater appreciation, since the altar for the Ketores is the culmination of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, since Tetzaveh is the idiom of Tetzaveh, connection alluding to the connection of the Jewish people with Hashem, which is mainly through the altar of Ketores, Kishur, connection as the culmination of the Torah portions of Tetzaveh, the completion of the ultimate perfection of the unification of the Jewish people with Hashem. An even deeper understanding of this, the altar for the Ketores emphasizes the connection of the Jewish people with Hashem. The Jewish people and Hashem are completely one, and by means of the essence of the soul, the level of Yechida one. Yechida to become one with you, which is the one with the essence of Hashem, and through it we accomplish the main and ultimate phenomenon of and that I will dwell among you, ani literally. And this concept is alluded to in it, and the measurements of the altar, a cubit is the length of a cubit, its width, singular cubits alluding to the soul, which is called Yechida. Just as Hashem is one, so too it is singularly unique. The incense of the Ketores mentioned in the Parshas of Sisa, and its explanation of the oral Torah with the Baraisa of the making of the Ketores that were made up of 11 incenses, which alluded to the level of 11 days from Mount Sinai, the level of 11 which transcends the 10 commandments which were given at Har Sinai, the level of you are one, however, not a tally of 10, since the essence of Hashem that transcends the 10 Sefriot, revelations from Hashem and its parallel in soul, namely the level of Yechida that transcends the 10 imminent powers of the soul. The Ketores service at the time that they burned the Ketores in the Heikel every day, all the people withdrew from the Heikel and the area between the Olam and the outer altar. No person may be there until the one that burnt the Ketores went out upon the complete his service, as the verse says, in the order of the service of the Yom Kippur, and no person shall be in the Ohel Moed, namely that the service of the Ketores is in the manner that the Kohen is found alone, Yechidus with Hashem, and which alludes to the connection by the means of level of Yechida. And when we say that the concept is alluded to also in what the verse says in the concluding words regarding the Ketores altar, which is also the conclusion of the Torah parts of Tetzaveh, and Aaron shall touch the blood of the Haitis sacrifice of the Yom Kippur on its horns one time a year he shall spray upon it for all generations. It is a holy of holies for Hashem, notwithstanding the fact that it is related to the service of Yom Kippur, which is mainly discussed in the Torah portion of Zachor, which this alludes to the fact that the service of the Ketores every day is a prelude. It's similar to the Ketores service of the high priest of Yom Kippur, and the Holy of Holies, in which is emphasized the ultimate perfection of the unity of all aspects of Yechida, of the soul, corresponding to the high priest, and together with Yechida, unique of time, one and only day of the year, which alludes to the level of Yechida, which is called one and only, and Yechida of place of the Holy of Holies. And this has received greater appreciation since also in the recitation of the Brisa regarding and making the Ketores, we mentioned the Ketores of the height of priest of Yom Kippur. And there is 3 extra portions which the high priest enters on Yom Kippur. Moreover, in addition to the necessity of the mention of the 3 extra portion of Yom Kippur, for the calculation it had 368 portions for 365 days, and additional for the 3 portions for Yom Kippur, as we add the emphasis also in explanation preparation for the Ketores of Yom Kippur. And he returned it to the grinder of Erev Yom Kippur. In that order it should be very finely ground, which is the emphasis and connection of the Ketores of the Yom Kippur to every day. And there is also an additional essence, and there is also an additional essential phenomena in the Ketores. And Aaron shall bring the Ketores incense every morning upon arranging the lamps. He shall burn it. And when Aaron lights the lamps in the afternoon, he shall burn it. Lamps allude to the Jewish souls. The lamp of Hashem is the soul of man, which are fixed and lit through Torah and mitzvahs. A lamp is a mitzvah and Torah is light. And in addition to this, through the lighting of the lamps, the whole light is drawn forth and revealed also in the word, as the exposition of our sages on the verse, and they shall take for you pure olive oil to you and not to me. I do not need it for light, and you shall make the sanctuary safakin at shukufin atumim, windows we have learned, wide towards the outside and narrow towards the inside. Narrow on the inside, it gets bigger and bigger towards the outside, in order that the light should leave the Heikel and shine out into the world, for I do not need it for light. Outside the curtains of the testimony of the Ohel Moed, it is the testimony to everyone in the Jewish world. The divine presence rests among the Jewish people, which this is the main purpose in making the tabernacle, in order that there should be the dwelling of the divine presence in the world. And through this, the uniting of the upper realms and the lower realms, which began at the beginning of the giving of the Torah, reaches perfection. And based on this, we explain the reason of the service of the Ketores being at the time of the arranging and the lighting of the lamps, at the time of the arranging them, at the time of lighting them, that the ultimate perfection of the connection with Hashem through the level of Yechida at the service of Ketores is drawn forth and revealed in an openly manifested manner through the lamps in all specific levels of the lamp of Hashem, the soul of man, also in the eternal power of the soul, and in the aspects of the service of the mitzvah is a lamp and Torah is light, including in it being drawn and revealed also in the world. And the concept is emphasized more in the fact that the Torah service was in the middle of the arranging the lamps, namely that they were divine, the arranging of the 5 lamps and the arranging the 2 lamps with it in correlation with the opinion of the sages that we divided them with the Torah, not like the opinion of Abba Shal, that we separate them with the blood of the Talmud sacrifice, which through this the arranging of the 2 lamps is on a higher level, namely that since it becomes after the Torah, it is exceedingly emphasized in it that it draws forth the revelation of the level of Ketores which transcends the level of sacrifice, of which the main one is the Talmud sacrifice, as the opinion of Abba Sha'ul, that we separate them with the blood of the Talmud sacrifice, namely that also this level shall be drawn and revealed in the service of the revealed powers and even reaching the world. And this attains greater appreciation based on what the Rambam writes, that after the arranging the 5 lamps, that one who merits to burn the Ketores enters and burns it, and afterwards the one who merits to clean the menorah enters and fixes the 2 lamps, and the one that burnt the Ketores goes out with the one who cleans the menorah. That the Rambam adds to the wording of the Mishnah that merely states upon completing the service that they all came and stood without going into any detail, is emphasized that after the Kohen that burns the Ketores completed his service, he does not leave immediately. Rather, he stays inside until the Kohen that fixes the 2 lamps enters, and only after the completion of arranging the lamps that they both go out. And we say that this alludes to the fact that the arranging of the 2 lamps has also the assistance of the Kohen who burns the Ketores, so that through the lamps the level of connection and unification brought about the Ketores shall be brought down forth and revealed. Based on this, we can explain also the reason why the Torah portion of Tetzaveh begins with the passage regarding the lamps. We explained above that Tetzaveh alludes to Tizavah, unification with Hashem, which is mainly through the Ketores after altar, which is discussed at the conclusion and culmination of the Torah portion. And just as in the passage of the Ketores, in the culmination of the Torah portion, there is an emphasis on the fact that the level of Ketores, Kishura, connection, is drawn forth and revealed, is in the world also through the lamps. Likewise, there is an emphasis also and mainly in the beginning of the Torah portion of the level of Titzaveh, connection, and like Ketores is drawn forth and revealed in a clearly manifested manner through the lamps, and that so the Torah portion of Titzaveh begins with the passage of the lamps, and you, Titzaveh, shall command the Jewish people, and they shall take and bring to you pure olive oil to light an eternal lamp in the Olam Moed outside of the curtain of the concealed art of the testimony, draw forth and reveal the level of Titzaveh. In slightly other words, the content of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh is for the most part regarding the priesthood of Aaron and his children for the service in the tabernacle, which through this the tabernacle will be sanctified with my honor, that my presence will dwell in it. Therefore, the opening of the Torah portion is with the main service of Aaron and his children, which through it and the dwelling of the divine presence in a revealed manner is brought about in the passage of the lamp, and its culmination with the ultimate perfection, the dwelling of the divine presence through the service of the Ketores, and it being drawn forth and revealed through lamps in the passage of the Ketores altar, which mentioned also regarding and arranging the lamps in its conclusion. An explanation of this concept in the daily service of man, since every day a person becomes a new creation. There must be a renewal of all aspects of his service. Every day it should be anew in your eyes, which their central point and purpose is, I will dwell among you, beginning with the renewal of the Torah service at the beginning of the day every morning, which is the main and ultimate phenomenon of I shall dwell among you through the level of Yechida. And this phenomenon is emphasized in the recitation of the Ketores passage every day, in addition to the recitation of the verse in which speaks about the daily Ketores service, and Aaron shall burn the Ketores incense every morning, and in the afternoon he shall burn it. We proceed and say also the verses which speak about the preparation of Ketores, you shall take incense. And after this, we will add and say also the specific details of the preparation of the Ketores, which are explained in the Baraisa regarding the making of the Ketores, even though it speaks about the preparation, the amount of Ketores that is needed for the whole year, which they would prepare all at once and not every day by itself, is written by the Baraisa. It had 368 portions in it, 365 correlating to the number of days of the solar year, and the 3 additional portions to which the high priest would go into. And when we say this emphasizes that it is addition to the Ketorah service connected to the day, to this day. There must also be the day general concept in the making of the Ketorah, the general connection of the essence of the soul. The level of Yechidah with Hashem is renewed, which through this, the main and ultimate phenomenon of I will dwell among you, is accomplished. And furthermore and mainly that the service of the Ketorah is upon the arranging of the lamps, and when Aaron lights the lamps, namely that the renewal of the making of the Ketorah, the Ketorah, connection of the essence of the soul with Hashem is drawn forth, revealed, and clearly manifested in all aspects of the service of the all service of the day. Also, when he is occupied in worldly matters, all of your actions shall be for the sake of heaven, and all of your ways shall make him know. The renewal of the connection of the soul with Hashem every day is accomplished during the Shema resuscitation and the Amida prayer, which is the concept of stating that one is ready to sacrifice one's soul for the unity of Hashem. In the resuscitation of the Shema, that Hashem is Echad, one. The ultimate self-nullification and standing before the king during the Amida prayer. And this phenomenon continues and is manifested also after one completes the service of Shema resuscitation and the Amida prayer throughout the entire day, and also when he is occupied in worldly manners. You shall conduct yourself in a normal way of the world, when a person must think and speak about business matters in the matter of doing business honestly, and automatically he loses his connection on the unity with Hashem. Time of the Shema resuscitation, the immediate prayer, similar to what the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, that although his unity of the soul with Hashem through the fulfillment of the mitzvahs is eternal forever and above, nevertheless below is under the confines of time, and only at the time the person is occupied in Torah or a mitzvah, he is united for Hashem. For afterwards, if he occupies himself with something else, he below is separated from the unity above. Nevertheless, the essence of Judaism extends from the essence of the soul. The connection with Hashem at the height of unity with one not I am tied in recognition above him, namely that in all situations from the night to the day it exists with eternal strength and everlasting stature. And when we add and explain the reason why we recite every day Abba, I would list the service according to the opinion of Abba Shul, arranging the 5 lamps preceding the blood of the Talmud sacrifice, and the blood of the Talmud sacrifice preceding the arranging of the 2 lamps, and the arranging of the 2 lamps preceding the Ketorah, notwithstanding the fact that the law, in accordance with the opinion of the sages of the Ketorah, is in between the arranging of the 5 lamps and the arranging of the 2 lamps. And the Beis Yosef writes, although the Rambam rules like the opinion of the sages who argue with Abba Shaul and say that the Ketorah separates between the arranging of the 5 and the arranging of the 2 lamps, and the slaughtering of the Talmud sacrifice and the spraying of its blood precedes the arranging of the 5, and it seems that this is also the opinion of the Smog, and according to this it would have been correct to list them as follows. The blood of the Talmud sacrifice precedes the arranging of the 5 lamps, and the arranging of the 5 lamps precedes the Ketorah, and the Ketorah precedes the arranging of the 2 lamps. Nevertheless, since we see literally the word found that Abai lists the order of the service in accordance with the opinion of Abba Shaul, it seems that he is in the opinion that this is the law, and therefore they did not want to change that order, and seemingly this needs explanation. Certainly the Rambam and the Smog knew that the Abai listed the order of service in accordance with the opinion of Abba Shul, which from this it's understood that so is the law. Nevertheless, they ruled the law like the sages. What innovation did we find that Abai listed in accordance with the opinion of Abba Shul, and therefore they did not want to change the order, contrary to the ruling of the Rambam and the Smog, that the law is like the ruling of the sages. And mainly in the order of the Yom Kippur services we say, he enters the inner chambers to fix the 5 lamps, the Ketorah of the morning, and fixes the remaining 2 lamps, as the opinion of the sages, which the law is like them and not like Abai, who lists the order of the service in accordance with the opinion of Abba Shaul. And now if the order of Yom Kippur service they change from the word of Abai, who ruled like Abba Shaul, who did they not make a change in the order of the daily service? And we may say the explanation of this based on the deeper dimension of the law. The world found, olam, world, an idiom of Halem, concealment, alludes to the state of exile. Children who are exiled from their father's table, which then they are in a state of yasom, an orphan, as alluded to in the name of Abba, the acronym Ashar, Bacha, Yerucham, Yasam, that with you, your help, orphans will be granted mercy, since their father Hashem is found in a different place, so to say, as alluded to in the name of Abba Shaul, is necessary to borrow, so to say, a father from somewhere else. And therefore, regarding the recitation of the daily service every day, they did not want to change that order, which Abba listed in accordance with the opinion of the Abba Shaul, that arranging the two lamps preceded the Ketorah, since in the state of the concealment of the time of exile, it is not that possible for the level of Yechida to be drawn forth and manifested in an internalized manner in our godly service, to the extent that it is drawn forth and manifested in the world, alluding to in the proceeding of the Ketorah before the arranging of the two lamps, as the opinion of the Abba Shaul, that the Ketorah is not in preparation for the step for the arranging of the two lamps, rather a service for itself. However, regarding the resuscitation of the order of the service of Yom Kippur, since on Yom Kippur the Jewish people find themselves, even during the time of exile, on a high level, to the extent that each and every Jew is similar to the high priest who enters into the innermost chamber, we say he enters the inner chamber to fix the 5 lamps and burn the Ketorah of the morning and fix the remaining 2 lamps. Thus, the law, in accordance with the opinion of the sages, the Ketorah precedes the arranging of the 2 lamps, which alludes to the drawing forth and manifestation of the level of Yechida in the internalized manner in our godly service, to the extent that it's drawn forth and manifested into the world. And may we say that from the resuscitation of the service of Yom Kippur once a year is drawn forth over the entire year, as alluded to the resuscitation of the Baraisa regarding the making of the Ketorah, and the 3 extra portions in which the high priest would enter on Yom Kippur, and he returns it to the grinder of Erev Yom Kippur in order that it should be very finely ground, and also every day there should be a foretaste of the ultimate perfection of Yom Kippur, that the Ketorah is in the middle of the arranging of the lamps, and a special empowerment for all the above in the exclusive time of the year, once a year, in which we read from the Torah portion of Tetzaveh in a communal gathering with a blessing before and after it, the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, which concludes with the passage of the Ketorah altar, the burning of the Ketorah, and its continuation in the Torah portion of Siseh, regarding the making of the Ketorah, after the preface of regarding the half shekel, take for yourself incense, and you shall make it into Ketorah. It's always read in the month of Adar. And among the reasons for this, since on the first of Adar they announced the regarding the shekel, so that each and every person should prepare his half shekel, so that he will be ready to donate for the money reserve called the Terumas HaLishka, which from it they take the money to purchase the daily Talmud sacrifice and the Ketorah and the salary for those making it. When Rosh Chodesh Nisan comes, they buy the Ketorah from them, from the new contributions, in order to offer it from the money of the new contributions. And based on this, we may say that the reading of the passage of the Ketorah at the end of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh and the beginning of the Torah portion of Siseh in the month of Adar is an empowerment for the renewal of the general service of making Ketorah and offering it from the new contribution from the entire year, which in it is emphasized the ultimate service of the tabernacle. So I will dwell among you, namely that the connection with Hashem through the essence of the soul, the level of Yechida, Ketorah is drawn forth, revealed, and clearly manifested and internalized by the eternal powers of the soul, and in all aspects of the service, including service in worldly manners, lamps. And when we add that there is an additional connection of lamps, oil, and Ketorah, the month of Adar, oil and Ketorah gladden the heart, and when we enter Adar, we exceedingly increase in joy. And all of this is emphasized even more in the calendar layout of this year, since the Shabbos of Torah portion of Tetzaveh occurs on the 11th of Adar, and Erev Shabbos, one who toils on Erev Shabbos shall eat on Shabbos, is one of the 10th on Adar. The day of the Shabbos is connected to the level of the Yechida of the Jewish people, as the word of our sages Shabbos said before Hashem, master of the universe, all of them, 6-day week, have a partner. So I do not have a partner, Yechida, the unique one. Hashem answered him, so the Jewish people are your partner, since also the Jewish people are Yechida. As the verse says, Hey, and behold, this nation dwells alone. All the letters have a partner except these 2 letters, Hey and Nun, since they are by themselves. Likewise, the Jewish people are by themselves, the level of Yechida, and emphasized even more when Shabbos occurs on the 11th day of the month, and Achad Esar, 1 plus 10 days, you are 1, however not in the tally of 10, which is connected to the level of Yechida. And Erev Shabbos, which occurs on the 10th day of the month, alludes to the ultimate perfection of the service of the Jewish people, who are compared to the moon and count by the moon. And by the month is a lunar month, and the 10 powers of the soul and the 10 preeminent powers. and the unification of both of them. One who toil on Erev Shabbos shall eat on Shabbos, denotes the dwelling forth in Revelation of level of Yechida 11 in the imminent powers 10. And when we say that when we read Torah portion of Tetzaveh and the unique calendar layout, the content of the Torah portion is emphasized even more, namely that through the lamps of the Ketores is drawn forth and revealed in all aspects of the service with the innermost intimate power 10. And when we add the will of Hashem that each and every Jew and Jewish shall utilize the empowerment of Erev Shabbos and the holy Shabbos of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, the 10th and 11th, the 1st of Adar, to accomplish upon himself the renewal of the Ketorah service and the drawing forth throughout all aspects of service throughout the entire year. Moreover, and mainly, that in addition to the affecting oneself, one must accomplish upon others to do all of the above, and it would be good to affect 10 Jewish people, a holy congregation, which includes the completeness of the Jewish people, as understood from the wording of the Zimun blessing. The same thing said for 10 people is used for 100,000 people. And to add that affecting others is especially emphasized in the lighting of the menorah and the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, the affecting of Aaron the Cohen to all 7 categories of the Jewish people to light the continuous lamps. He lights it until the flame shines by itself, namely that the lamp of Hashem, the soul of man, shall shine with a mitzvah, lamp and Torah light, which is also service of each and every Jew, Jewish, as the instruction of the Mishnah. You shall be among the students of Aaron, love and the creations, and bring them close to Torah. And the most important of everything, that from reading and Torah study regarding the lighting of the lamps and burning of the Ketorahs, we shall merit literally immediately to the fulfillment of the mitzvah of lighting the lamps and the burning of the Ketorahs, the light of the high priest in the third base of Mikdash, which is built and established. It will be revealed and descend from heaven as in the time of the Mincha prayer and the holy Shabbos of the day of the 11th of the 1st of Adar, in close proximity after the reading of the Torah portion of Tetzaveh, to light the eternal lamp. When Aaron lights the lamp, and afterwards he shall burn it. They do not inaugurate the golden altar only with the Ketorahs of the afternoon, and they do not inaugurate the menorah only with the lighting of the lamps in the afternoon, literally immediately. Thank you for watching. Zai Gazun, Kol Tov.